Well, folks, here we are once again, another episode in the many conversations that we're having with the people who came to Pittsburgh through the Ireland Institute, and today we're with Paul Lawther. Paul, how you doing?
Good, Jim. Good. Thanks. Yourself?
I'm great. Paul was on the Walsh Visa program way back in 2001,
Yes, that's right.
the
Yep.
first year,
Yep.
and at that, Paul, you were young too, weren't you? 18 maybe when you came?
I was 18. Yep. I
Yeah.
was 18.
So first of all, it's good to see you. And can you believe that in 2001, that's 20 years ago. So
It is.
you're approaching 40. You'll be 40 in the next couple of years. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm still 2 years away, Jim.
Yeah. We won't push it. We won't push it too far.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Paul, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about, before you came to Pittsburgh, obviously you grew up in Belfast. Can you
Mhm.
talk about what was going on in Belfast when you were 17, 18, and whether or not how that might have helped you decide whether you should come on this program to Pittsburgh?
Yeah. So, I mean, around that time, so obviously the Good Friday Agreement was signed in 1998. So naturally at that time there was I don't want to say prosperity, but there was more of a positive outlook than perhaps there was pre 1998. However, still, even in 2000, 2001, there was still arguably a lot of trouble in Northern Ireland, and especially Belfast, because it was always a center point for a lot of the trouble. So again, at that age, there isn't a lot of opportunities per se. Obviously, it's vastly different now, but at that particular time, those same opportunities didn't exist. It's I come from a very working class background, and I suppose you know you're not really encouraged to focus on academic achievement. It's usually vocational roles, whether that be joinery, which in America would be a carpenter, and so on and so forth. So that was never really anything I wanted to do, and I was always confused about what I actually wanted to do. And again, at that time, and the question was, what was it like in Belfast? So at that time, it was extremely difficult. Rules were limited. There was a lot of trouble, and for me personally, I wasn't in a great place at that time, even though I was only 18 years old. I didn't really know where I was going with my life. I didn't know what I was going to do, um, and yeah, it was a difficult time, an extremely difficult time. Uh, However, that all changed when I went to Pittsburgh.
How did it change for you?
I mean, it had a profound impact on my life. I mean, it changed. It literally, without sounding over dramatic, I for me it saved my life, because at that particular time, just before I did go to Pittsburgh, I was probably running around with the wrong people, getting myself into situations I probably should never have been in, um, and I was going down the wrong path. There was absolutely no doubt about that. But going to Pittsburgh changed all of that. It changed my professional outlook. It changed my personal outlook. Um, and it gave me. I felt for the first time that I felt hope. I felt like I had a future. Um, and more than that, I actually, it was there's a cultural aspect of all of this as well. I mean, when you're living in somewhere like Belfast, throughout the troubles or the best part of the Troubles. You know, a lot of young people like myself, you'll watch movies, and it's an element of escapism. And it's obviously it's American movies, and you always have these visions of going to America and living the dream, the American dream. And when it becomes reality, it's, you know, you're kind of pinching yourself. Is this really happening? And then when you are there, when I talk about, you know, the professional outlook, you know, I was on a program at the Hilton Hotel, and it's still to this day was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life, in terms of the people that I met, the opportunities that it opened up for me, because through the hotel I met a lot of friends, American friends who I'm still friends with to this day, that got me into, you know, I went to fraternity parties at West Virginia University, and, you know, I experienced what real America is, and what you dream of as a child, that you could potentially go and, you know, you watch a movie and there's a fraternity party and you think, I would love to be there, and then when you're there, it's like, this is absolutely surreal. So it changed everything. It absolutely changed everything. And in America, there is, you know, it's a land of opportunity, but there is, you know, professionally, you know, a focus on your job, for most people, and you know, it left a lasting impression on me, because I seen, you know, the focus that people have in terms of, you know, trying to advance their career, and that gave me that supported me, and give me focus, and it's stayed with me, to this day. And again, that's because of the experience I had in America. And if I never had that experience, then I probably wouldn't have been quite the person that I am today. Again, professionally, you know, and personally, because, as I say, you know, it had a profound impact on my life.
Right, right. And so when you got back to Belfast, what was your trail? Where did you go from Pittsburgh? You got to Belfast. What was the next step or steps for you to get to where you are now?
So when I had just come back, so when I went to Pittsburgh, just before, maybe around 2 to 3 months before I eventually went, I knew I couldn't stay in Belfast. So the two options that I felt I had was to try and do everything I could to get to America, because it was something I wanted to do ever since I was a child, or join the military. So when I initially had come back from Pittsburgh, I was employed at the Hilton in Belfast.
Right.
Naturally worked at the Hilton in Pittsburgh, and then I'd come back to work for the Hilton in Belfast. So I worked there for a year, and then consequently, I then went into the military, because again, it was always something I wanted to do when I was younger, and it would underpin some discipline, that I had already picked up when I was in Pittsburgh, in terms of professionalism. And so I joined the military. I was in the military for around 3.5 to 4 years. I had come out of the military, and then I was successful in a post with Vodafone. So that was my first role within telecoms. I was there for around, in total, I was there for around 6 years. I then left and went to a large independent telecoms company, as the head of UK and Ireland. Was there for 4 years, and then the eventuality was I'm in my existing role, which is the head of OneCom in Northern Ireland. And OneCom is the the largest independent telecommunications business in the UK. Um, so it was, again, and I do credit a lot of that with the experience that I had in America. Based on work ethic, and having a and being ambitious. Having a focus that you're not satisfied being in the role that you're in. You feel that you've got more to offer. So you focus on what it is that you want, and you do whatever you need to do to get there. And I seen a lot of that when I was in Pittsburgh with a wide variety of people that I work with. And that's done well for me because it's had an impression on me, and then it's certainly led to well, I believe where I am today.
Very good. Oh, that's a great summary, Paul. I mean, where you were back at 18 and thinking about maybe aspiring to some kind of labor trade if you ever did, as to where you are now and going through what must have been quite a transformation, and to know that Pittsburgh had such a role in that is really nice for us to hear, and
Yeah.
that's much appreciated. What about family? You have children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I have a fiance and three kids and a dog as well. And yeah, and funnily enough, I mean, if you were to ask any of them, they could probably tell you all about Pittsburgh as well because they've heard it that much.
yeah,
The name of the street that I lived in, the Primanti brothers, the list goes on.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
so, and it's strange because it's always, I talk about it all of the time, and I haven't been back in 20 years. I've literally dreamt about it. And I've been back to America. I've been to Las Vegas, and I've been to New York. And when we were in New York, we were going to travel down to Pittsburgh, and listen, it just didn't happen. But listen, we've talked about the possibility of actually moving to Pittsburgh as a family.
Wow.
And I absolutely I would not for one second rule that out. I think maybe not. It would take some planning, of course, but it's absolutely something I would not rule it out. I mean, you know, it's for me, it's so similar. Like we had talked about just before, it's so similar to Belfast. But it's just an absolutely amazing place. It's an amazing place, and it's home for me.
Right.
Even though I haven't been there in 20 years, if I stepped off the plane today, it would feel like being home.
Yeah. Right. Very
Absolutely.
good. Very good.
Hmm.
Well, listen, Paul, it is so good to catch up with you, and I really appreciate you taking some time to remember your experience in Pittsburgh and to recall all the good memories and that brings about. I want to just appreciate your time here today, and I'm looking forward to us connecting again soon. Once COVID gets resolved and travel is allowed more, maybe you'll find a way to bring the fiance and children over for a visit or something longer, and that would be great.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jim.
And
Look,
and likewise, I'm looking forward to seeing you over there. It was great to see you last year, and you and I have talked about a lot of interesting things on the business side of what the institute does, and that's going to be something interesting to follow up with you very very soon, as soon as we get a chance to gather and plan. And again, I just want to say thanks for hanging out with us today.
yep, Jim. Listen, really, really appreciate it. And you or the institute needs anything, all you have to do is ask.
Thanks. That's great, Paul. Thanks again, and
Brilliant.
see you soon.
Yep.
Okay.
Speak to you, Jim. Appreciate it.